Hey, happy Monday morning. We are back Monday morning. I had to double check. That's how fast the weekend went. I forgot which day it actually was.
It's just second Friday.
Second Friday, if only. Yeah, I mean, I am in the US, so this week is kind of a write-off for a lot of people, but I'm still working, with the exception of maybe Thursday. We probably won't have a show on Thursday.
All right.
But, and maybe Friday. We'll see. Anyways, it was a good weekend. It was a good weekend on the personal front. It was a good weekend in the markets, I think. We saw a little bit more excitement over the weekend. There's always the fear that we'll lose any ground that we made up during the week on the weekend. But it seems like we did okay. So we'll fill you in with all the news and everything that's happening. Quick reminder, we're a live show Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, as if they can't tell.
I know. Hey, look what I got today.
Button board.
The new Stream Deck sound effect board.
Yes.
Although, so we're going to be like pretty much up with the times here pretty quick. Although I downloaded the application for it today and have no clue what to do. So I have a Stream Deck that doesn't do anything. And
Mr. Producer will help you with that.
I'm sure there's like a dad joke in here somewhere, or like the founder of a tech company that struggles with technology. There's probably a bunch of jokes.
I make that joke every time I log on to Zoom and can't figure out how a camera works.
Yeah. I mean, it happens. It happens. We do work for a tech company, so no big deal. Anyways, there was lots of exciting news. I don't have any merch on, so I can't plug any merch. What do you got on? Blue Stones? I think that's probably a band, hey?
It is a band.
So typical.
I know. Well, I haven't got my Liquid Collective Christmas hoodie yet, so I don't have anything to wear.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it took a really long time for them to show up last year.
I totally did.
But I don't even care because they're freaking awesome. The ones last year were great. The Christmas sweater this year is going to be even better. So you'll know when we get them because we'll be wearing them for sure that first day.
Okay, there's a lot of news over the weekend, but
yeah. So like, what are we talking about?
Good news. Like we've got prices going up. AVAX did really well over the weekend. Elizabeth Warren is both FUD and pro crypto, so we'll talk about that a little bit. The Bank for International Settlements discussed stablecoins and why stablecoins will never compare to fiat. So I think that's kind of funny to go through and use your grain of salt thinking there. We have a really big triumph in Argentina, which is pretty cool. And then we do have to talk about, even though it's not technically crypto, we will talk about the OpenAI staffing change and what that might mean and kind of what that looks like in terms of emerging technology. That's why I find this particularly pertinent. I mean, obviously people are using AI for things like trading bots and what have you. So it's not as though AI isn't present in crypto, but it's important to note these are two separate emerging technologies that are seeing similar trends. So
yep, we'll cover all of that. We're talking a little bit about Avalanche. We're talking about some.
Oh my gosh, I said that. Let's go.
Did you say all of it? I didn't see you talk about shit. What the hell? Yeah. Well, I just wasn't listening then. So there you go. Listen. All right. Well, fuck it. Let's go then.
Okay, let's start with the stablecoin discussion. Let's do it.
Wait, before we get into it. So I don't know. I think we might have made a big mistake giving me the Stream Deck.
I agree. I think that I should have grabbed it, but
I also agree because as far as I understand, the buttons are sound effects, right?
And overlays and stuff like that.
Yeah, give me the power to do that shit every day.
Well, I think that we went with you because I'm going to be away, but I feel like we should probably both have them set up the same.
People are going to tune in just to listen to my Stream Deck. I'll be a professional Stream Decker.
Do you play any instruments?
Huh?
Do you play any instruments?
I play guitar.
Right. So you'll be able to figure this out.
Yeah. I'm like pretty much a DJ now. So like it'll be good. We'll have like EDM music playing and some headbanging.
All right. Stable coins.
Oh yeah.
We talk about stable coins a lot. We talk about stable coins and how governments sometimes buy into them. We talk about stable coins and how we like to use them within crypto. We talk about stable coins a lot. We usually talk about them alongside a central bank digital currency Today, we're talking about stablecoins in terms of the Bank for International Settlements. They released a report late last week about the inherent weaknesses in stablecoins. And their argument here is that essentially the banking system participates in bailouts, so they are going to stay stable, and stablecoins won't be participating in the same way. So how are they ever going to stay stable?
Yeah, I mean, we love communism because capitalism doesn't work. So let's just make sure that we just create these businesses, and when they don't work, we bail them out, and those are the only ones that can succeed. The Bank of International Settlements. So this is one of those examples of something that probably should be discussed. I think is the interplay between fiat and stablecoins and what that actually looks like. Because I don't think for the foreseeable future it's going to matter. The fiat system is not going to feel anything from the stablecoin system in the short term, in my opinion. But the other thing that we got to think about here is Bank of International Settlements has no upside and all downside with crypto and stablecoins. There is no need for Bank of International Settlement. It's not no need.
Wait, are you significantly biased in their report?
I mean, you at least have to read it. You have to read it through that lens. And so I'll give you a couple of the main points, and then I'm interested in your thoughts on this one, Kiara, which is a change here. But
that's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, you might actually get to talk. That might be interesting. But there's a few things that they talked about. The first major point, I suppose, is that they were concerned about the ability for the central bank to intervene. As you mentioned, the FX markets, and they're trying to draw the parallels with the Eurodollar and the FX markets and how important it is for central banks to manage exchange rates. Yes and no. That's kind of like saying get a good market maker, and even if your project sucks, it'll never go down. Like that actually doesn't make sense either. So that argument kind of goes out the door a little bit for me. But anyways, they're talking about settlement mechanisms. So currently, right now, it's mainly parity with USD. They're saying that there's issues in terms of the mechanisms, I suppose, to maintain that liquidity during economic stress. Again, I think that's a bit misdirected personally, but I'm going to shut up until you have a moment to opine on that one. Then they talk about the banking crisis and how obviously stablecoins would have made it a lot more difficult, and how that impacted Silicon Valley Bank. They're talking a lot about bridges and other security risks and regulated liability network solutions. Anyways, all of this stuff to say, all of these points actually really aren't horrible. I think they're things that we probably should look at and discuss. I just think that the angle and the tone and the perspective here is interesting. What are your thoughts on this one, Kiara, specifically around the banking crisis, central bank intervention, shit like that? Like, what do you think this is?
I'm like shocked that you want to hear from me. I wasn't prepared for this. I actually am very anti-bailout, because as much as I love social justice, I also believe that if businesses aren't being successful, then there isn't a need for them. And that should apply to banks as well. So when I hear about something like a central bank bailout, all I can envision is that has been a wild mismanagement of money or a misunderstanding of their economic model or a variety of other things. But I mean, you and I have talked about that before. One of the things that this doesn't address is the length of time. So we've seen the central bank bailouts several times. We know what that looks like. We know how it works. One of the things that we haven't seen in long term is the algorithmic stablecoins. And as you and I have discussed previously, time will tell if those are going to work out or not. And so I feel like this is a little bit of a short-sighted sentiment in terms of the report itself. It is obviously biased because the people who wrote it are going to be pro-bank. And that's kind of...
I mean, I think
their solution might not be viable.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's ways... There's ways to program algorithmic stablecoins so that they are more in line with fiat and monetary policy. Yep. I'm not sure if that's the desired outcome in the end, is that we just mirror the same level of control. That kind of defeats, in my opinion, the purpose a little bit.
I think that's what a lot of people think stablecoins are for, though, right? Is to participate in the fiat system once removed.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. I think there's, like, for some reason, the space generally, like, laser focuses on one thing that they think is going to be a huge problem. And like, it's something that we're going to have to get over. Right now, the algorithmic stablecoins that exist have nowhere near the track record, performance history, experience set, statistical significance to make any conclusions. Currently, that is like the tip of the spear in terms of technical development with respect to algorithmics and, some of that stuff. It's going to be a while until we have some actual ideas on how to do that. Again, I think there's a lot of value in having these discussions. I think, again, as I said earlier, there's a lot of focus put on the impact of stablecoins on monetary policy in the short term, and like I just don't see it. It's a rounding error to global fiat activity. Like it just doesn't, to me, seem like the biggest thing. Having said that, it's way better to assess these problems before they are problems.
Absolutely.
So I'm down with it.
Those who are participating in tearing stablecoins apart are the old money, right? It's the EU, the UK, and the US. And so I think that this also is a little bit of a distraction from de-dollarization and is maybe trying to consolidate funds back into one place. That's kind of what we see with the regulated liability network solution as well. It's basically saying, hey, yeah, we will use blockchain, but just for what we're already doing. And we need it to be all in one place, and we can't have multi-chain, and we can't have cross-chain, and we've got to have one place for stablecoins. And that's against the whole ethos of what we're doing.
Well, yeah, it's like saying, hey, we love what you're doing, except for all the stuff you're doing. Just remove all the stuff you're doing, and then we'll
do it here, just like we just have been. Yeah. No big deal.
Kind of makes sense. I think, again, like I struggle with this one. I think in the US, it's a huge concern too, is how to regulate stablecoins.
Absolutely.
I think what actually matters currently is let's just regulate proof of reserves for now. Let's just make sure that the stablecoins are actually freaking backed by something. And that removes the vast majority of concern. And I think we've already alleviated 80% of the problems. Add in some KYC, which will be inevitable. And it's the same shit as your fiat currency, essentially. Probably better. There's a hell of a lot more transparency because you can see every time it moves. Absolutely. So some of it, I think, is ignorance. Some of it is power. People trying to pursue different angles of power in whatever way.
As you said, I do like looking at it early. So if we can take a look at what they're saying and see where a separate group, an external review, has found deficiencies, I think that could be really good for the space. So I am concerned that people are going to scoff too hard at it and not consider this report at all. Instead, let's read the report, let's take some notes, and then apply them to our own systems.
Where they lost me, I think, was talking about how bailouts are a good thing. I think bailouts are the antithesis of capitalism, in the sense that if you like, let's dumb this down to like the easiest to understand example. But if I knew that I could do anything that put physical risk on my body, but I would never get hurt and I would never die, would I act differently than if I knew that if I didn't wear a helmet, or if I drove too fast, or if I did this or did that? Of course I'll act differently. Like, why on earth are we allowing global financial institutions with such a massive impact on everybody else to not have to worry about the risks they're taking? It's insane, which is why we're seeing all of this nonsense, like the collateralized debt obligations and all the mortgage-backed securities and all this other nonsense of 2008. And then you go back, you can go back further than that. You can go back to the .com bubbles and look at all the different things that have happened there. It makes no freaking sense. And I don't know. It's just frustrating. I hope we can move forward. Okay.
What else you're going to find frustrating is Elizabeth Warren.
I had a good transition there. I was going to do it for once.
I ate it. Sorry. What was yours?
Okay. She's my least favorite politician in America.
I know.
Probably. I like her less than I like Biden. If that's possible.
So, geez, JD.
Well, it's important because that's a caveat that's probably worth noting here. I don't like Elizabeth Warren. I think she's an absolute imbecile. So that makes me look at this even more critically.
I do have to say about this particular thing that's going on, which is essentially that Elizabeth Warren has a new act called the Warren's Digital Asset Anti-Money Laundering Act. And basically, I see this as a lot of politicking because over the weekend they went up and they talked about it and they got a cybersecurity expert and they're all talking about how awful crypto is for seniors and how 350% increase in senior exploitation incidents have happened over the last year and so on and so forth. So I just see this as a lot of politicking personally, but I felt like you might have a more political take on it.
It's a lot of politicking. I mean, there's been a lot of speculation, and again, this is anecdotal, but there's been a lot of speculation that in order for Warren to support Biden in the presidential race, there was some backdoor deals that were made with respect to some of these key priorities for her from her perspective. And there's a few key cabinet positions that were obviously part of this negotiation because there's some fairly left-leaning people that staffers in a lot of the, or not left-leaning, but Elizabeth Warren-leaning people that are in the White House that otherwise likely wouldn't be. Anyways, all that to say, that's what I think is interesting here is that Warren, for some reason, has outsized influence over this crypto thing. She, in particular, has been probably the loudest outspoken critic of the space from day one. Sounds like she's changing her tune a little bit.
A little bit.
She used to be 100% anti-crypto, and now all of a sudden,
she's like, well, if we can regulate it.
Well, I think obviously the writing's on the wall, right? Like that society is not going to have it. That we're just going to be prevented from having this asset class. So I think this is like the slow 180. But I can't handle Warren. Her philosophy,
Can you handle the
economic
SEC?
policies, like all of it, just is big government, nanny state, and that's what she wants here.
Let's talk about SEC. I feel like it's a perfect segue into what's going on right now, which are more delays on ETFs.
Yeah, Global X and Franklin Templeton. Again, we talked about this Friday, I think, you and I, or Thursday.
Yes, but these are more that they've pushed back.
No, yeah, I know. I think they'll keep doing it until they absolutely have to. Like they can keep. It's really easy for them to make the argument for delay. But if you see the denial, then they get lawsuits and all this other stuff. So I suspect we're going to see them delay as long as they possibly can. I was really hoping we'd see a BlackRock or something.
Not before 2024. And so they keep saying that now it'll be early 2024, like Q1. But as far as I can tell, please correct me if you have better info on this. As far as I can tell, they can delay about 6 weeks at a time. And you said they can delay up to 3 times?
I think it's 3 times. There is a timeline. There is a finite timeline. It sounds to me like still, as recent as this weekend, I heard it a few times, that the people are still expecting the SEC to imply approval dates prior to Thanksgiving, which is Thursday. So.
Do you want some good political news?
No, I don't like good political news.
That's too bad.
Makes for much less.
Get one good political news, which is that our pro-crypto candidate in Argentina has reigned victorious at last.
56%. I'm not sure it's just because of his crypto policy.
No.
But it is very good for a country, I think, that has had tons of economic challenges and could be, I think will be, a really good case study in a couple decades of how to transition your currency.
Absolutely. I do love that he's called their central bank a scam. Like that was one of his major policies.
Well, I'm biased, but I think all central banks are scams right now. I think it's one of those like government bureaucracies that when it was established made a ton of sense. Mm-hmm. You know, like it's the way the central bank was established and why and how to manage monetary policy. All of that obviously has turned into, you know, exponential benefits for society. So I don't know. This is always exciting when you see these guys come out, but we'll have to see if he actually does any change. If he makes
once he won, Bitcoin surged about 3%, and people really believe that that's related, that's correlated. I don't know. Maybe we also saw Avalanche surge 8% over the weekend.
I think it's going to be quite some time before we see this trickle down. in terms of its impact on Bitcoin price. I think it's going to be like a decade. I don't think the guy getting elected means he's just going to all of a sudden transition to Bitcoin and go buy all the Bitcoin on the market. Yeah, I mean, you never know.
Stoked.
Huh?
People were stoked, though.
I mean, you never know. Maybe it'll happen. I don't know. But
and Avalanche is, of course, going up because of their partnerships, JP Morgan, that kind of thing. We saw a lot of that last week. We talked about that. But I'm surprised that they went up so high because they also had their big layoffs.
Yeah.
People were funny about the layoffs.
I think it's just showing, again, I'm biased. I'm a pretty big fan of Avalanche. I know their core team really well, talk to them frequently. So I am a little bit biased, but I think it's prudent business. They scaled up a lot during the bull market at bull market prices with bull market responsibilities. And now they've had a year to assess, where the market rates for some of these roles should be. I mean, some of the salaries and compensation for not necessarily at Avalanche, but in general in the space was laughably out of touch with reality. And that's typical bull market, right? It's a bull market. You're trying to attract the right people with experience and they can command a lot. Now it's a bear market and, there's a lot of opportunity, I think, to reevaluate your team structure. So I don't see the layoffs from Avalanche as a problem. I actually see them as prudent, maybe a little late in my opinion, but prudent. I think what they're doing and what they've continued to do is show their focus on many different verticals, but specifically this excitement, I think, was all to do with Singapore. So it had to do with some Singaporean licenses being approved and Avalanche supporting these ecosystems under which they'll be licensed. I think I've been saying this forever, and Avalanche is like one of those like not super sexy. The marketing isn't flashy. There's not a ton of narrative. Yeah,
it's so sexy. They're F1.
They're not F1. It's Formula E, which is much different. Yeah,
I think that's the Avalanche play, which is what I was kind of getting at.
Avalanche is really
focused. So hot, but it's always like a little bit off kilter. Yeah.
A little bit off.
It's like they got Grimes, but not Elon, right?
Yeah, and it's not like I don't know. Like I don't really think it's a bad thing. I just think it's a contrast to what we normally see in the space. We see a ton of hype and then a lot of disappointment. And in Avalanche's case, it's kind of been the other way around. Like not a ton of hype, but everything is an overperformance of expectations because for some reason people still expect Avalanche to not do well. Yeah. Now, this is one of many examples of late that shows a keen understanding, focus, and a certain amount of track record and traction with respect to onboarding TradFi. There's no other ecosystem that has come anywhere close to the announced partnerships, let alone the unannounced ones that you're going to hear about very soon. So yeah, I think, Avalanche, I wouldn't sleep on Avalanche. Obviously I'm biased, but I think, from what I know and from what is public, but they haven't slowed down. I think we're going to be really impressed in this next wave of adoption, how much actually focuses on Avalanche. Absolutely. I'm biased.
Also in DGen news, but a little more political, is Atomic Wallet. So Atomic Wallet had a big hack that was about $100 million, I believe. And they are looking at a class action lawsuit that was filed in the States. But only one of the plaintiffs is from America. So, and Atomic Wallet isn't based out of America. They're based out of Estonia. And so Atomic Wallet has asked them to drop this lawsuit and refile in Estonia.
Yeah. This is some creative lawyering, I think.
Absolutely. I love it.
As long as one U.S. person was involved, they can bring the action in America. The reason Atomic Wallet doesn't want to have the action in America is the rules are way, way more strict. The fines are orders of magnitude larger. And then they've got to travel and pay all the fees and understand a totally new country's legal system. Like, of course they want it to be in Estonia. We'll have to see what happens.
Hey, this has something important in it.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So the unimportant thing that you should know is that the 5,500 users or so who are part of this class action lawsuit have all agreed that they will limit damages to $50 per user. Which
like they should just settle this fucking thing.
Yeah. Like why even go through this? Anyways,
it's 250.
The thing that I found really interesting is how Atomic Wallet is talking about the duty that they have. So they're being sued for negligence because of security. An atomic wallet says that that has no legal merit because there's no duty for user security as a wallet. So we could get into that a little bit further, but I think that this is really interesting because whatever kind of comes of this might become precedent for those who are custodians of your assets.
So this is, I believe, a bit of a stain on the space.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, if you're Atomic Wallet and if you're a user of Atomic Wallet, let's maybe speak in general terms. If you own a wallet and or if you're a user of a wallet, I think there's an implied expectation that that wallet, the reason they're earning revenue from you is because they've built a piece of infrastructure that they're willing to stand behind. And I mean, I and everybody else on earth, I think, would look at this and assume that that's probably the number one responsibility that they have, is security of the wallet. That's probably dope. So this is a stain on the space in the sense that, and now, to Atomic Wallet's defense, if I was being accused of all of this stuff, of course, that's going to be your same response. You're going to say, well, it wasn't explicit in any terms and service. Where did we sign saying that we are ultimately and financially responsible? I think there's, again, it's a very gray area. To your point, I think this will really inform a lot of the future, but it's a really, there's just a lot of gray. There's a lot of subjective kind of assessment to responsibilities here. Where does negligence begin and end? Is it negligent because they weren't financially backing the security, which is different, I think, because you don't have to. Often there's limitation of liability on security. Or was it actual negligence where there was an issue that they should have, any normal, rational person should have known that you could just fix that and then this $100 million hack. Anyways, I'm going down a rabbit hole here, but I think this is important. This is why I think that regulation is inevitable, is because there needs to be some understanding of who's responsible for what.
Exactly.
Right. And we can't just say it's all on the user. Like that's what we tried, but that doesn't work. Because
this
the
is
user
so
has
fascinating to me
information.
because we're going from like TradFi, where we've taken all of the possibility away from the user, to DeFi, where it's 100% on the user, and now we're trying to find that middle ground. But I always like to look at other industries, other benchmark industries. I used to be really obsessed with breakfast foods, not to eat them, but like the marketing and legal implications of breakfast foods. Do you know that in 2012, a mom sued Nutella for not being a health product and won? Do you remember this?
Well, I do remember that, but I mean, Nutella is an egregious example of this.
But I think it's a good example to say, like, hey, I'm a chocolate spread. Hey, I'm a DeFi wallet. Okay, we have an inherent understanding of what being a chocolate spread is and what being a DeFi wallet is. But whose responsibility does it become to ensure that that's acting the way it should and is being advertised in a way that is understandable to the end user? Right.
That's the key, is the advertising piece, because in Nutella's case, they're being they advertise as being a health food product, essentially. Yeah. It's good for your kids' development and growth.
It's made of nuts.
Yeah, right. Like 1% of that spread is from a nut. The rest of it is processed chemicals and sugar. But anyways, that is a good example in many ways. I think the difference here is when there's money involved and asymmetrical information. I mean, what the Nutella spread has done to allow you to make the decision is put all the ingredients on the back of the bottle and the health facts and all of that stuff. Again, regulation. Where will that benefit the blockchain space? Well, probably in the same way. There's just going to be certain standards and reporting requirements and compliance requirements and audit requirements that say that if you are a user and you want to get symmetric information, you should be able to get it. Then a lot of it's on you. Your responsibility exists. But it's so gray and it's so subjective right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, we talk about this and look at it all day, pretty much every day, because that's so much of what we're working on, is kind of trying to bridge those two realities, DeFi and TradFi. And I still have no clear expectation of.
There's just this element of reasonable expectation that companies are going to provide what they should provide. And so like, I'm not a fan of the Costco model where you can return anything. There's no buyer beware. But I'm also not a fan of the model where I'm Atomic Wallet and I actually am not at all responsible for security.
I feel like that's a trend in society, and we can talk about OpenAI tomorrow. Because
before we go, we should talk about OpenAI. We should talk about OpenAI.
I just think we can do it tomorrow because I think we've got there's a few articles on it. No, or do you want to?
There are, but we can just talk a little bit generally. So it's important to know
that
OpenAI has dropped Sam Altman. So they have removed him not only as CEO, but also from the board.
Yeah.
They also took their other founder and removed them as an operating person, but left them on the board. So that's kind of a big deal. And there are reasons that this matters. One is that Altman has been inconsistent in stating what AI is supposed to do and what OpenAI is supposed to do and what WorldCoin is supposed to do and what his true position is. I don't want to say political position, but maybe like ethical position is.
Yeah.
But this is also important because it has lost faith in WorldCoin, which already was questionable. But when he left OpenAI, or when he was ousted from OpenAI, WorldCoin also saw a 12% drop. So I don't know. I think this is interesting, and I think that it's really reflective of emerging technologies, no matter the industry. This is AI versus crypto versus et cetera, AR, VR, meta, whatever. But we keep seeing the same thing, which is that people really want a trustworthy leader, somebody who's transparent and consistent.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting here is there's a lot of ways strategically that they could have done this on purpose. In this case, I'm pretty sure it was as much of a shock to Sam as it was to everybody else, because his Twitter posts since then have been ones of shock. You can tell that he's like, what the fuck? And there's an AI conference that was OpenAI conference that was going on, and he even had to get a guest badge. So like it's a little bit kind of them thumbing their nose at him and him doing the same. Now, I don't see this as hugely problematic. I've said many times, and I know this to be true, but once any of the businesses I'm involved in scale to even a tenth of the revenue of OpenAI, I am not a suitable executive. Like my skill set is that's not where my skill set lies, period, in enterprise. And so it's actually more common that you see original founders and CEOs and executives transition to more advisory board, type roles as the business grows. Because again, if you're a startup guy and you're on the board of an enterprise business, is that like, do you have the appropriate expertise to opine? I don't know. And so at a high level, this to me is like not that much of a deal. Like when I first heard it, I was like, fuck, that sucks. It was a bit of a blindside. Sam, was a bit of a figure of mystery, so to speak. Like everybody kind of knows who he is, but no one really knows what he's about. And it was kind of interesting. There's a lot of speculation that he did this very strategically to become the richest person on earth, and all of this other shit. Anyways, all that to say, I didn't find this that shocking. This doesn't make me less bullish on AI. Probably more bullish. I will agree that it felt like, this is just my personal opinion, but it did feel like Sam was a technology purist. So it felt to me like there maybe was a little bit of a haphazard approach to what bad things could come of AI, because the theory is the good things should outweigh it, and we'll figure that out when we get there. Anyways, why WorldCoin went down, again, I think is the opposite response. WorldCoin, if anything, will be better off if we believe that WorldCoin A is a good project and Sam is the type of person to bring it to market.
But people don't trust him now. Hey, the last thing about OpenAI that I think is interesting is that the new CEO that they have put in place, Emmett Shear, was the former CEO of Twitch.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty cool crossover for him. And people, as far as I could find, have pretty positive sentiment about him.
Yeah, I've never even heard of Emmett Shear, which maybe is not a bad thing. Twitch is successful, and I've never heard of him. So that probably means he's found a way to stay out of a lot of controversy, and Twitch has been successful. So, I mean, OpenAI has really a unique opportunity to shape the future of technology. They have more money, more traction, more awareness, brand value currently than anybody, not even a close second. And if they continue to capitalize on that in a prudent and ethical way, it will be, or should be, one of the most valuable businesses on earth.
Yes.
And in order to do that, you need to catch lightning in a bottle and thread the needle. And sometimes
that involves two separate metaphors.
Most important though, you have that's about how rare it is to take a business and make it one of the top 100, 500 in the world. Like that's, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to come together for that to work out. So, I mean, I personally, I think this is all positive.
Oh, we're going to end on not a FUD note?
Huh?
We're going to end on not a FUD note.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
It's weird, right?
What's going on?
What else we got to throw in there? Anyway.
That's it. Okay.
Okay. Live show Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Like, share, subscribe, bookmark, do all that shit. Help us get the word out.
Right.
Send me some merch so I don't have to wear merch.
Yeah, that's a plain hoodie. What are you doing?
I think Nike's my sponsor today.
Gross.
I mean, they can sponsor me if they want, but they're going to have to pay me. I won't be sponsored by Nike for free. Just saying. Anyways, okay, we'll be back tomorrow with Taco Tuesday. I mean, what?
Yeah.
We'll be back tomorrow with another episode. I think you're here tomorrow, right? You and me?
Yeah, I'm here all week. You're here. You're gone.
Well, I'll be gone Thursday, probably.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Like, subscribe, and remember, it's Monday. We're obviously a live show. JD,
Go find yourself.
go find yourself.